Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Resident Evil 4. I guess I need to say in between each episode that this is the HD fan-made mod as far as the visuals. So we cleared out this encounter and we're short on gold. What's weird about this section, boy, that flag looks nice. Like, this almost certainly doesn't have the NVIDIA FabricWorks technology in it, but maybe it does. It looks like it does, but that must have been added later, because it definitely wouldn't have been in there originally. Of course, part of the problem with the FabricWorks technology, and I'm calling it FabricWorks, that's probably the wrong term, is that on some computers and some graphics card, the fabric would either be completely replaced with a rigid flag or nothing at all in some instances. There's a lot of games where there would just be banners of no real import for some people, and then the banners would be completely missing. It definitely doesn't have the next generation of like hair technology after the fabric technology was introduced. It's weird that you get into this area and then you take out everybody trying to kill you, and it is much like the village event where you have to just survive for a while, except for in this case you can't just survive for a while, you actually have to defeat everybody. And you do all of this and your merchant is here, and then either you never really have a reason to come back to talk to the merchant, or you can't come back. And this is locked, so had you tried to go to the door while people were chasing after you, you would have gotten your butt handed to you. But that was a whole sniper section, and we're just never going to really do anything with that sniper section or with the sniper gun in this next area. You could try to interact with it, but there isn't really a great reason. You could also certainly check the map to just be certain that there's one treasure inside this building section, and then there's a treasure just outside of this treasure building. When we start to get to the metal doors, which you can't shoot through, it's kind of interesting in the sense that the game starts you off with these enemies that throw dynamite at you, and then you just never really have an occasion to fight enemies like that ever again and keep your try to come in close for the kill. Like, the system actually is a pretty bad system when you get down to the core of it, that since this is a game where you're shooting a lot and that would be the focus, then you would not want to penalize somebody for staying back, particularly in a game that locks you in position when you're shooting and taking aim and firing, which is exactly what throwing the dynamite was. By the way, if you hear a train going, that's actually happening outside my house. A train horn. Alright, so just wait for him to get close. And this is fairly advanced strategies we're doing here. Is trying to Trying to save bullets. You can, by the way, shoot the flying. You can shoot the flying bullets or the flying axes out of the air. You might have thought there might be a blue medallion. There's definitely a lot of rooms where a medallion could have been used more. But that's the entirety of your falling action for this game, is just walking through a narrow pathway, and then you are back to fighting. There are enemies in here, which if you could get the angle just right, I guess maybe you could shoot the enemies, but you really would have to get the angle fairly carefully here. So we have an unlit dynamite thing. We can just get a slight edge, or we could aim for his head. There's danger here and a desire to have you dodge behind, so I feel I should just eat one of these. Although if I can make it, let's not play fast and loose here, because then I would just have to go through this whole section again. Let's just do it here. So you're supposed to jump over here and then crouch here. And then I may have been lucky enough to kill the other people. There's a guy here, but he can't find the pathfinding, so he's stuck behind the door. And this is where the rifle is going to have its best value. We could waste 3 bullets shooting those for no reason. For safety, we will shoot these. Although, in all fairness, you could just try and jump over here. Of course, I don't know how safe that is when jumping over there put me right in the middle of 3 more things. There's a spinel in here. That's not the treasure. There's some bullets here. You can't really run around with your gun unreloaded. Your handgun. You can run around with your other guns unloaded. And there's not a great reason to slam the doors open. So normally you would probably think to shoot that out. Alright, now we have this elegant mask. And in backwards, or or something. We saw this. This is the treasure piece. It is another treasure item that I don't think you combine that with. Instead, what you need is something that's a little bit fancier. It's like a gold plaque with a gem on it, but it's not just the gemstone alone. It almost feels like it would make more sense in a modern game if there was just a lot of red and green and blue gemstones, and in the village, which kind of is the only place that you run into these treasures, or these specific treasures at least, you would almost make them interchangeable so that you could fit at least one gemstone. Did I miss something here? Isn't there's supposed to be a point where we jump down and get into a fish pond, and I guess it must be around the corner. There are definitely little curves and hallways here that I just don't remember. Mostly that's because there's not anything in these hallways. They are just the only falling action for a game that is otherwise just constantly increasing action. Yeah. You do take some damage, so that was supposed to be your falling action to make you feel like you're safe, and then stop that. Here's your big question where you start to run into things. You can either waste bullets, or you can take a lot of extra time to try and slice fish. And you are going to, even with a medium suitcase, or a medium attaché case, have trouble taking all of these fish, which are valuable items, either for your health or for your money. And again, you would have this temptation to shoot something from a distance that won't actively swim away from you as you try to run towards it. How many bullets is this really worth to save a few seconds of time versus just... It's strange my knife is not killing him on one hit. You get an upgraded knife and late in the game, and that does, I think, about double the damage. Okay. We've got some nice water effects here. You probably couldn't do any better with just retexturing or changing the imagery or the way it's depicting things. This is another example of where a remake really would help. So, all that room that I once had now is getting filled up with the fish, which means we now have to hold the fish in our inventory for a little while. Like, we can generally say how long. Like, it is opened, so we could run back to the merchant. Sure. Because you really aren't going to run into the merchant again until you get to this point. So yes, you could run back, but I have never done that, and I don't really see a reason to do that. You don't have any spindles or anything up here. I'm fairly certain there isn't anything like that. This is interesting because that's a little load section there. This is another case where you want to shoot that before you shoot that, otherwise it will get dirty. Alright. And in this case, you just want to target the explosive, and that will kill most of the crows. I'm actually frankly shocked that that worked. This might be the first time you run into a snake. The snakes are a little crazy to have it. Couple gold more. And so we're out of what was kind of an oddly kind of industrial section there. And we're back to the village section. That industrial section would have felt much more at home in other parts of the game. We might as well just reload now. In fact, since I know we are where we're getting to, it makes a lot of sense to just free up space and equip everything. Now there's a whole story here that's happening in parallel with a character named Ada Wong, and we're about at a cutscene that that will coordinate with Ada's story. There is also not 100% chance that if I go back in a room after a point, I get basically physically thrown out of a room. If I go back in it, I think I get killed. Yeah. So I think you have to search this room thoroughly now, otherwise you'll miss anything you're going to potentially miss. Chef's note, Chief's note. This may be the sub-boss's own boss. Books in English. They're really trying to emphasize here that these people are not just dumb zombies. They are intelligent. Even the villagers are intelligent enough to be coordinated fighters, whereas up until this point all the zombies you fought have just been not really that coordinated and just shambling idiots. Yeah. So this is probably the sub-boss's bedroom we're in, and we're gonna get a cutscene, and if we come back in here we may die, so I won't do it because it's just not worth it for what may very well be a death or might just be a small line of dialogue. There's no real achievements, I think, around this game. And here we hear another sub-boss. So this will be the second time he doesn't actually kill you. But he can see, you can see your eyes are glowing red. And
you carry the same blood as us, it seems.
you might have assumed that was because he's
you're an outsider.
being choked, but
Just
it's
remember,
more because he was infected.
If you become unpleasant to our eyes, you'll face severe consequences.
So yeah, you don't get kicked out of the room so much as you get choked.
Blood.
And that's the end of the chapter. We did die once this time, but our accuracy and hit ratio is higher. So I'm actually very happy to see the accuracy going up. There is a fairly artificial factor towards your accuracy. We have not seen any micro-stuttering at all in the game. So thank goodness for that.
Leon,
That was the thing that stopped me from playing the game because it was just so terrible.
Apparently, there's a religious cult group involved. They're called
It's
the
just
Los Illuminados.
not playable.
Los Illuminados. That's a mouthful. Anyway, I had an unexpected run-in with the big cheese of this village.
But you're okay, right?
Yeah, but he could have killed me, but he let me live. And he mentioned something about me carrying the same blood as them. Whatever that means.
Carry the same blood. Huh. Interesting.
Anyway.
Hunnigan as a character never comes back into the game either.
You're right. Hurry and find that church,
Leon. They may have mentioned her, or she may have been a character in like Resident Evil 6 for as bad as that game is, but I guess we can go back this way and get the extra cutscene. Since we just saved. So there's just this, if you don't go back in, you don't see Ada Wong being hinted at there. And you get saved by her. And he doesn't see her at all, so you see it as the player character. And there's one woman in red, somehow familiar. So it doesn't kill you, it probably hurts you. Alright. And then you've just gotta continue playing. There's a lot of lines of dialogue here that I thought were voiced. So just a guy in the bathroom. Although a weird bathroom, certainly. To have just a urinal. And like no hole in the floor at all. It doesn't make the most sense that you would, I guess at a certain point it might be like a French pissoir to have just a urinal but no toilet. And maybe that was a localization thing. The Japanese people thought it would be just like a old-fashioned Japanese toilet with a hole in the floor. Or like they definitely are going for emphasis of them being civilized. It almost feels like this may have been at some point what you would have called a vertical slice of the game, a demo to show to potential publishers, funders. Each of the pictures on the wall being kind of a hint of what else would be in the game before what else in the game had been designed. The picture of the And yeah, most of this I just absolutely remember. Totally. It's funny you can't shoot out that window. Picture of the lake, picture of the church. And so you have your forwarding action. The fish are worth more. So use the egg. Let's equip this. I think 4 shots here is probably not enough for what we're about to take on. But we'll try it. So we've got another chainsaw guy here. And the hope is to potentially line him up with another headshot. Come on. Alright, now, handgun. And shotgun. And knife. And we've got a ruby, which is worth about 20,000. That did not set me up nicely, really, for as many bullets as I had to use, but yeah. You had one of 2 options there in which you could either use a lot of bullets or throw a grenade or run past him possibly. Although I've never actually tried to run past him, so I don't know if he wouldn't have just swung a chainsaw hit that would have chopped off your head, which is what he does. What's funny also I'd say about this is it kind of feels like you're just going back to where you were, but you're not. You're moving forward. The curved paths potentially are just a little too similar. This is one of the few female zombies in the village section. They do exist, but you are hardly going a 50-50 split on them. Which honestly, for as old as this game is, that would have felt a little weird if it was 50-50. Even now, in 2022, it is fairly weird to have anything close to a 50-50 split between male and female ratios of enemies. We have gotten to the point now, or at least I personally have gotten to the point now, where it feels a little bit weird if there aren't any female enemies, but a lot of times it boils down to you'll have a really this might be a really good point to try and throw a incendiary grenade, but almost certainly I'm going to miss. Yeah, what you usually have is better written style. female enemies and then the cannon fodder characters will be the male characters. You can see in this case there's a lot of people that are just the same 3 or 4 male models getting reused. I guess there were a couple more than I thought. Couple more bird's nests than I thought there were. I suppose the puzzle section to open the door before that was some falling action also, although that puzzle is just so incredibly easy. Really just don't get anywhere with it. Yep. I'm just trying for any kinds of bullet economy at all. Just try and grab as much as possible. There would be less reason, certainly, to go back to the beginning of the game. I guess the question you want to ask is, in all of these areas, like this wasn't there before, so they moved it back. They moved the bookshelf back. Up here, there's nothing. Up here, there's nothing. Maybe if I hadn't killed the cow, there would have been something to that, but I think it's pretty much a case that the items you picked up in this area and the state of this area, for the most part, seems to be saved. There's no real refill of items, so if anything, maybe that's even trying to explain to you and show that there is no need to go back to the beginning of the map. Of course, if you weren't thorough or hadn't played this game multiple times, then yes, there is probably a decent chance that you missed some items in this section, and this is your opportunity to go back and collect them. This is also your opportunity to go back and get the blue medallions if you missed any of those. But we didn't miss any of those, so there's no need to do any of that. Yeah, if we missed a treasure, going back this way would be helpful. This treasure here is at the end of a cave. It is somewhat odd that there's this whole section that we're going to do later. Yeah, I guess you get to the end of this big lake section and then you get turned back around. Unless there's something I'm forgetting. So we got that key. So now we can use it to unlock this door. And we can head to the church. Which means 3 or 4 hours into the game we are finally going to get to the point where this whole game turns into an escort quest. Which almost certainly a modern game wouldn't do that. It's not as big of a problem as it would seem, and in fact it's perhaps the last enjoyable escort quest to ever exist in video games. They have us, like, they stated the premise that we were here to save Ashley. The premise could have just been to investigate this village. And that could have eliminated Ashley as a character completely. There's some TMP stuff. And this sucks. Because this is potentially going to explode and hurt me. Nope. It doesn't have that big of an explosion radius. So you jump down there, but you could climb back up. Ashley gets kidnapped several times, which is, yes, ridiculous. But it allows you to remove her from the game when she's not really contributing anything as a damsel in distress in the game. Which arguably games these days don't want to have anybody in distress, damsel or otherwise. But yeah, she gets removed when she's not adding something, and when she is adding something, perhaps they are not the best gameplay elements of the entire game, but they do give a nice change of pace and something different, where arguably even Resident Evil 5 doesn't really do anything like that. And as it becomes more and more action based, it's just 2 team members fighting alongside each other in an ideal, like, co-op thought. We are playing co-op. Let's see. I don't think this hairdress combines with this or anything else. So they also have a pocket watch and lots of stuff to sell, which is really where all of our income is coming from. It probably would have been more of a thing in Resident Evil 5 if they had if it was a more modern game. It probably would have been a case where co-op characters could have been knocked down and needed to be saved a lot, or get grabbed and dragged off screen, slowly being dragged off screen by zombies. But that's not really the same as an escort quest anyways. Any luck with the blue medallions? Remember, shoot 10 or more to get your specialized gun.
What are
There's
you
no way
selling?
you would have been able to do that at this point. So a black bass restores health partially. A black bass large. We immediately
Is
sell
that
this.
all? Thank you.
And then this restores partial health. So green herb is 500, black bass is
Is that
750.
all?
That's why you sell
Thank
those. Sell
Is
all
that
the
all?
spinels.
Thank you.
Sell the ruby.
Ah.
Sell the
Thank
watch.
you. Ah. Thank
Sell
you.
the elegant hairdress. Each one of those 10,000.
Thank you.
We keep the elegant mask, but you would think elegant and elegant might imply they were the same or somehow connected, but they really aren't. And we may keep the flash grenade at this point.
What are you buying?
So, rifle. It's not telling you how much bullets are in the sniper rifle, but
Is
I'm
that
fairly
all?
certain it's out.
Thank you.
Shotgun.
Is that
Reload
all,
speed.
stranger?
We could upgrade the TMP
Is that all? Thank you.
if we had it.
Is that all, stranger? Thank you.
Getting your firepower up on the rifle is
that
a
all?
lot more than you
Thank
would
you.
think, because the handgun does 1.2 damage per shot, but you also have to do this delicate balance of firing speed. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I would say, really, more fortunately, you have to upgrade everything anyways, so the only real trade-offs are potentially one handgun versus another handgun, and there's like 2 or 3 of them in the game. Otherwise, you're just going to upgrade everything. But generally speaking, the shotgun feels a lot different. It has a much larger area of effect, maybe not as far as a firing distance, and it does 4.5 damage. However, it is also 3 times slower, over 3 times slower. And then the rifle does 5 damage, but it's even slower at firing. And that's why the semi-automatic rifle, I think, is pretty much always going to be the one you take. TMP has a very high firing speed, but very little damage. And the firing speed, the lower it is, the better. The higher is the more seconds it takes, I think, is how
What
that
are
goes.
you buying?
Let's see. The problem here is now we could buy 1 first aid spray, which might not be the craziest thing, but
Is that all?
let's buy the TMP. And then
Thank you.
we have to start to think about, do we want to buy the stock of the TMP? There may only be 1 TMP in the
What are
entire
you
game,
buying?
so
Is that all?
you might be fairly fine with
Thank
that.
you.
You definitely want to upgrade the capacity of the TMP when you're out of bullets.
What are you buying?
I could have potentially even bought the scope for the rifle's not necessary at all, but I could have bought a rocket launcher, but that's not useful.
Is that all, stranger?
Like, there's a couple of places, or at least one place in the game where you buy a rocket launcher and
Thank you.
that's kind of all you need to do.
What are you buying?
We don't have enough gold for that.
What are you
Nor
selling?
do we need to get deep into trying to sell things. Right. Combine this with this, even though visually it doesn't look any different. And oddly, it doesn't fit in the same way. There we go. Make some more room. And this is kind of a half setup of where you're gonna be. Like, I think I'm going the right way. Yeah, almost certainly. Because at some point you're gonna come back through to this point and do this section, and that'll be probably when you can upgrade everything a second time. So I've done as much as is possible. Now, if you were really loving the way the game was playing now, and then Ashley comes in and makes it a fetch quest, or a escort quest, not a fetch quest, that does change things, certainly. Like, that's undeniable. They got very lucky that people didn't rebel against that or get bored. Certainly, I guess that is more of a case, too, that this is an old enough game where it would have been potentially the only like AAA game to come out on the GameCube for several months. So there's some guys coming out to attack me fairly slowly. Here he is. It's just like the game does not want you to even run into yellow herbs yet. Like, I've found maybe one so far. Right. Darn it. Gotta be more careful about wasting bullets. I kind of feel like for this first playthrough, you kind of don't want to get the gun after we've gotten all the medallions in this area. You don't want to get it early. There are some signs and symbols here that I feel like they would have been maybe a hint to some kind of puzzle, but I can't recall if there really was any kind of hint to any kind of puzzle here. It would be shocking if there was some kind of secret people have yet to find in this game, like potentially axing or knifing gravestones might lead to something. Somebody is trying to attack me. Can he attack me? Yes, and I can die. So where does that checkpoint you? Checkpoints me here. Which that is not where I last saved, so even noticeably there is a difference as far as I guess also if I memorized which of these drop something of importance, I might be more cautious about wasting bullets. Although I guess it doesn't matter that much. So that didn't set me back too far. You would think that this game might change the items in the boxes if you die, give you more health kits or something to help you survive a little bit more. I don't think it really does too much of that, if it does any of that at all. Which does create a problem at certain spots where you might just be locked in a room in a boss fight and whatever is in that room as far as items is all you've got. So if you walk into a room with no bullets and have to make do with what they're offering, you're definitely going to struggle more if you run into that bad situation. They balance that out somewhat with there being kind of a high level of elemental, environmental items to use in a lot of fights, but not enough to 100% compensate. If I just shoot the guy until the dynamite explodes. That's actually a very interesting mechanic that doesn't get used. You would kind of think that that would be something that would have been fairly industry standard, that there would have been enemies who would shoot or throw dynamite, and if you shot them in the leg or something so they couldn't throw the dynamite fast enough, it would explode. There really is a lot of just iconic stuff in this game that does not get translated. I don't think the game actually will let you go down that curved section at this point, because you're trying to go into the... You're trying to go into the church. And so then the idea of going into the church is your main focus. Oh, so there is a whole puzzle here, which would, I guess, inherently mean we need to get, I think, number 1, number 2, and number 4 lit. So let's go with 4, 3, then 4 again, then 4, then 3 would put us back where we were, so probably not 4 at that point. And then 4 would again put us somewhere where we don't really want to be. And then 4, I guess, to maybe light everything up, which I don't really agree with that. I guess 4, I could be wrong about the ones I'm trying to actually light up though. 3, then 3, then 3. And quit. Okay. Let's go check. Yeah. You can't go this way.
Leon, have you reached the church yet?
Well, yeah. Sort of.
Leon, did I mention not to take the scenic route? At any rate, Ashley's probably inside that structure. Rescue her. Hurry!
Alright, so the game doesn't want you to go that way. You could probably force it if you wanted to, but she actually is, I think, storyline wise, in danger. Alright, so we have an M, a V, and a S. It's interesting that you have these like walled sections that you can shoot through, but you can't jump over. Would have made a little bit more sense if we had if we were able to jump over it. Okay. So 3, and then 4, and then 3 doesn't work, so we'll go 4. Then I guess you go 4 again. Then I guess you just go 4 again. Then I guess you just go 4 again. And then this time you go 3. And then 3. Then 3. And that's the green cat's eye, which is either combined with this or that. I guess if we are getting collectibles, we might as well make sure we're getting all the collectibles. One thing to ask as a question here is, at the beginning of the game, you heard the bell and everybody came. Do I have enough resources that I want to shoot the bell and potentially have all the zombies, have some more zombies come in? I am kind of looking for achievements in this game, because there are achievements, but I think they may be 100% storyline. So I think that causes a couple people to show up. Is this smart usage of your bullets? Not really. Yeah. So, an extra 1,000 gold and some extra damage, which my health is not good. Seems like it will potentially respawn people always. Might be a great example of where you could test the spawning of zombies, and it kind of shows a great place where zombies do just come in.
Hunnigan, it's Leon. The door's locked. I can't get in.
Didn't they teach you how to pick locks at the academy?
Yeah. There's some sort of indentation, like something might fit inside.
Well, there's no use standing around. Leon, you have to find some way or something to get inside.
Alright. Let's see if now the game will let us go this way. Alright, there's no more goofing around with that. Notice I'm not really trying to take on these guys. I'm not trying to really goof around with them or take any real challenge into it. Jump over here. See if there's... There's a snake. Which a snake will sometimes drop eggs. So we get a note that tells me we have to go to the lake. Take that first aid spray. Take this egg. It's a chicken egg, which is to assume that the snake ate the chicken egg. And can we make this shot? Or should we even try to make the shot from that distance? There you go. 15 out of 15. Out of an abundance of caution and just the actual fact that we are low on health, it's time to run back and at least see what the other gun looks like, if not sell it and buy a first aid kit, which may be the best thing we could possibly invest in at this point. See, that's a loading section, so that probably is also a checkpoint section.
Welcome. Got some rare things on sale, stranger.
So we got all 15 medallions. I'm surprised how much of this is not voiced. I really thought all of this was voiced. Go into the buy screen, don't worry about money. This one's on the house.
What are you buying?
Okay. So you have a Punisher gun here that we can buy for free.
Thank you.
And that's pretty much, I think, all we can do.
What are you buying?
Do have enough to upgrade the TMP capacity, but we don't have a reason to upgrade the
What
TMP
are you selling?
capacity. So just take a look here at the difference. You have the handgun doing a firepower of 1.2 and a firing speed of 0.4, reload speed of 1.47, and 13 bullets in the chamber, versus this Punisher doing 1.1. So it actually seems like it would do less of a amount of damage, comparing the 6 dots of upgrades for the 1.1 versus 1.2. A firing speed of 0.47, so a little bit slower, but maybe it would be faster if it had been upgraded ones, and a reload speed of 1.7, and again, maybe it would be better. The problem, of course, is you just don't have room for it, so sell it for 10,000.
Thank you.
And New Game Plus, come back and get the Punisher at that point.
What are you buying?
Also, I guess at some point it may not be worth it. We may have enough gold to just buy the Punisher for 20,000, so that is something that is available to us. Seems like you can only really buy a first aid spray.
What are you buying?
Though if you have
come back anytime.
Have no first aid sprays, which I don't know if I really want to agree with that idea. Let's see.
What are you selling?
So then what I'm really doing is keeping an incendiary grenade and a flash grenade, and then selling a first aid spray. No, I can't sell first aid spray. So it's just a lot of room here. Certainly. Go ahead and load up that. And as crazy as it may seem, I don't think you really ever can run out of bullets that easily. There might be a way to do it, but I think the odds are lower than it seems that I would get more bullets. And if worse comes to worse, I could use the TMP in the next encounter, and should use the TMP in the next encounter anyways. But I am going to have to pull some kind of major tricks to survive this next encounter. Yeah. he's holding his side because he's injured, and yeah, nobody's going to respawn. Getting 15 medallions didn't do anything from the looks of it. Definitely feels like there should be a save spot maybe in this shack here. That there would just be a typewriter in there. I don't want to use up any of my TMP bullets at the moment. So he's just kind of stuck in the corner there. Okay. Yeah. So there's no save spot here. This next area is a sub-boss, I would call it, fight that we'll have to get through. And that means we need to have our, I think, flashbang equipped first to use. And we'll just have to end the recording here. Yep, we're making good progress. Again, no micro stuttering. The visuals look good. They definitely make the game feel very playable for a game that I would roughly estimate at this point is nearly 20 years old. It doesn't feel like a 20-year-old game in my mind. It seems just like a nice little nostalgic trip. There isn't too much to say sequence from sequence, and I guess that is one critical thing you could probably say about probably one of the best games ever, is that it is a lot of little components. It's kind of a buffet of a game instead of being one large component all merged together. That's fine. It definitely is emulating experiences you would have had watching an action movie, in the sense that it's just like sequence of fights and then some small falling action, then another sequence of fights. A lot of action movies these days are really just 1 2-hour long sequence of fights, and that becomes overwhelming. But yeah, up until this point, which we are 3 or 4 hours into the game at this point, I say roughly 3 hours, we haven't had a big boss fight to take on. All we've had are the chainsaw guys, and the chainsaw guy in the first encounter is, I guess, a boss, but by the second time you fight him, he really is just a more powerful standard enemy. And this next sub-boss is going to be the thing that feels like a boss throughout the game. Anytime you encounter these next creatures, they will be a big hassle and a special event. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.